Hello, I'm Sally Baudet. Welcome to Global Business Europe. Our top stories. A memorable debut. China's top memory chip maker heads for a multi-billion-dollar listing in Shanghai. AI for all. 29 countries sign a deal in China to include every nation, rich and poor, in writing the rules for artificial intelligence. And too important to fail. British Steel is nationalised by the UK government. They say it will save jobs and protect a vital industry. Now, Chinese chipmaker CXMT has begun the subscription process for what is likely to be Asia's largest share sale. China's Changxin Memory Technologies expects to raise at least $8.6 billion in its initial public offering on Shanghai's tech-heavy Star Market. Now, CXMT is China's leading maker of DRAM memory chips. It's seen as a symbol of Beijing's push toward technological self-reliance. DRAM chips, or dynamic random access memory chips, provide short-term memory for smartphones, personal computers, servers, artificial intelligence systems, and other electronics. The global DRAM market has long been dominated by Samsung Electronics, SK Hynix, and Micron Technology. CXMT is the world's fourth largest. Now, in 2025, it had a market share of about 7.7%. That's according to its IPO prospectus. Beijing wants to reduce its dependence on foreign chips, and it's looking for CXMT to be a competitive domestic producer in a field that's currently dominated by foreign companies. Now, Matt Maley is Chief Market Strategist at Miller Tabak & Co. He also writes the Maley Report newsletter. Joining us now, thank you so much for your time, Matt. So, this is a significant listing. What does it actually mean for China's semiconductor chip-making sector?
Well, it's definitely very, very important because, as you mentioned, China has been very dependent on foreign chips, especially with these memory chips. I mean, we've seen this major change from just AI training to AI inference, and now to agentic AI. And these memory chips are becoming more and more important. So the fact that they're able to raise this kind of money to move into that area in a more significant way and become less reliant on foreign chips is going to be very important for the company and for the country. But it's also going to create some significant competition for these other companies outside of China.
It's interesting that CXMT wants to list this month, because if you look at DRAM chips, which are in huge demand, the top three companies, they're very volatile at the moment. Why is that?
Yeah, there's no question that part of it has to do with this offering here, and the people worried about some of this competition. But there's also, of course, people worried about the ROI, the return on investment that some of these hyperscalers are getting or are not getting from their big investments. So people are starting to worry a little bit that they may pull back on their demand for all these chips. So that's the reason for the volatility here. But I think it's still a good time for CXMT to be in getting involved in this deal, just in case things do turn down in a more significant way.
Of course, CXMT, when it lists, is going to hopefully raise at least $8.5 billion. Do you think it's going to be using that to try and ramp up its DRAM production and ultimately squeeze Micron out of spot number 3 in those global rankings?
Well, that's certainly going to be its goal, and it's part of a bigger goal that over the next the President Xi wants to get over the next 5 to 10 years to be the dominant technology leader in the world, and this is an important area for them to start, and so this is a good first move for them, and whether it works or not, we'll see, but it's something that's certainly creating a lot of tension among some of their competitors.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because at the moment we know that Apple really wants to buy DRAM chips from CXMT, but it wants US government approval first. What would it mean for CXMT to get Apple as a client?
Well, that would be, dramatic. I mean, it's funny because one of the things that they've been talking about Apple for the last couple of years about missing the AI move. Well, really, some people are saying they're smart as a fox. Dumb as a fox, that they've been holding off and not spending that money, but they will spend it once, some of the dust settles. And obviously, as one of the main leaders, biggest demand companies in the world, that would be a huge contract for China.
I wonder if you could give us some insight into why these chips, which essentially are, moving this AI boom so quickly, why are they strategically important and such sensitive items?
Well, the biggest thing is that on top of the demand, there's a shortage. There just isn't enough out there to meet the demand that they have, and so if the big question right now is, will there be a lower price involved? And people are worried about that over the longer term. But near term, the pricing is still very, very strong. And therefore, that's where the margins are. That's where the profits are. And so it's the most important issue facing a lot of these companies in the technology sector right now.
How important will companies like CXMT become? Because this AI boom is just, it's got such momentum now, and we are seeing everyone using these large language models. The general public is really realizing how incredibly useful it all is. What role do you see for a company like CXMT going forward?
Well, it's going to be very interesting because one of the things is that they're playing catch up, but in an odd way, that actually may work to their benefit because some of these other companies have expanded so far, so fast that if things do slow down, and there are a lot of people who are worried that we're in an AI bubble. But the thing is, AI is going to change the world, and just like the internet did. So those who survive, those who are actually coming in a little bit late, might actually do a little bit better. So this is going to be something that actually could work to their benefit in a very kind of odd way.
Thank you so much for chatting to us. Matt Maley is Chief Market Strategist at Miller Tobacco & Co. He also writes the Maley Report newsletter. Stay with AI. 29 countries have signed an agreement in Shanghai to become the founding members of the World Artificial Intelligence Cooperation Organization. China proposed the platform last year to share the benefits of AI with all countries. It also aims to give developing countries the opportunity to help shape AI standards and governance. Our correspondent Zhou Jiaxin is in Shanghai.
The mechanism aims to create an inclusive governance platform where developing nations can help shape AI standards, governance frameworks, and capacity building initiatives. And why does this matter? For many countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, the concern has been that AI rules and standards are being written primarily by advanced economies, leaving the Global South as passive consumers rather than active participants. And China's initiative directly addresses this by anchoring itself in the UN-centered international system, supporting the UN's role as the main channel for global AI governance, and advocating for equal rights for all countries to participate in rule setting. And this is also echoing the principles outlined in China's global AI governance initiative, people-centered, AI for good, and inclusive development. And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who arrived in Shanghai today to attend the conference, has also repeatedly called for stronger global AI governance. And his presence underscores the alignment between China's push for inclusive governance and the UN's own efforts to build consensus through mechanisms like the Global AI Governance Dialogue and the International Scientific Panel on AI. So for the Global South, the signing of this cooperation mechanism signals a very tangible shift. It is becoming a platform where developing countries have a seat at the table and a voice in shaping the future of the world's most transformative technology. And this is also the message Beijing is sending from Shanghai this week. CGTN, Shanghai.
In other news, the UK government has taken British Steel into public ownership. The company was previously run by Chinese group Jingye, but last year it ran into difficulties. The UK says nationalising British Steel will prevent thousands of job losses in a vital industry. Let's get the details now with our correspondent Li Jinhua. Jinhua, a really interesting story. How did we get to this particular point?
Well, Sally, the dispute has really dragged on for more than a year, and the UK government would like to secure the future of the company, but more importantly, the future or the steel-making capability of the UK. If British Steel were to shut down, the UK would be the only G7 nation unable to produce steel, which is considered rather strategically important. This is what Peter Kyle, the Business Secretary, said today, saying that British Steel now belongs to the British people. The priority for the government now is to stabilise this business. And we know the steel works employs around 2,700 people, but the whole steel industry in the UK hires directly about 33,000 people, and a lot more people are hired in the whole supply chain. So this is what really happened over the past 6 years. So just very briefly, in 2019, British Steel was placed into liquidation by its former owner. In 2020, the Chinese company Jingye Group acquired the company, but 3 years later, in 2023, it requested about $400 million from the government to upgrade the equipment, the coal-fired furnaces, but it's reportedly that the company didn't receive any grants from the UK government. And in March 2025, this is what the company said. The British Steel said that its blast furnaces were not quoted financially sustainable, and the company was losing about £700,000 a day. That is about $940,000 a day. And they wanted to shut down some of the coal-fired furnaces, which could be detrimental to the equipment. And that is why in April 2025, the UK government has the emergency legislation to take operational control of the British Steel. But the thing is, the ownership was still with the Chinese company back then, but now it is nationalized. So this is what Jingye Group said. I reached out to them this morning, but haven't got any reply from them yet. But they did release a statement on their official WeChat account 3 days ago. What we know is they would look for compensation, and I'm quoting the statement saying that honouring the sanctity of contracts and upholding fairness concerns not only Jingye's interests, but also the international community's confidence in the UK's business environment.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a really important point, because it's been a bit of a bruising time for Jingye. Do you think that this could impact Chinese investor confidence in the UK?
Well, Sally, that's a good question, because, you know, this comes at a time that China and the UK are trying to reset their political or trade or investment relations. This development may cast a shadow over the reset, apparently. So the first question is nationalisation unusual? It is not unusual. Many governments have done that, as long as the governments consider them strategically important. In this case, British Steel is considered important strategically. So what complicates the situation now is it used to be owned by a Chinese company, and this is not the first time that Chinese investments have been bought out in history. Let's say Huawei's investment in the 5G infrastructure in the UK was ripped out in 2020, and also the nuclear energy CGTN's investment in Sizewell C nuclear power was also ripped out, was bought out, to be specific, in 2022. So basically, this is a time that they are resetting their relations, and the UK government doesn't want to reinforce the perception of the impression that the Chinese investment is being politicized. But it does raise the question whether the UK's business environment is still predictable.
All right. Well, thank you for putting that all together for us. I'm sure there's more to come. Thank you very much, Lee Jinhua. Now, second quarter profits for TSMC have jumped 77%, with advanced AI chips still in high demand. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company has at the same time announced another $100 billion investment in the US. Its total commitment in that country now at $265 billion. The UK economy returned to growth in May despite the impact of the Middle East conflict on energy costs. GDP rose 0.1% after contracting in April. Services output was up 0.3% over the month, but that was partly offset by a decline in production, including manufacturing, and a fall in construction. Now, the two hackers who disrupted London's transport network have been jailed for 5.5 years each. 20-year-old Farah Jubair and 18-year-old Owen Flowers hacked into Transport for London's computer systems while streaming it live on the internet. The damage took 6 months to fix and cost more than $39 million. E-hailing platform Uber has launched a takeover bid for German food delivery firm Delivery Hero. It's valued the company at nearly $15 billion. Now, it could potentially create the world's largest food delivery platform outside China, and it would span nearly 100 countries. Uber has been looking to build a global presence in the food delivery business. The United States has announced 25% tariffs on many imports from Brazil. Thousands of products are going to be affected, including sugar, paper, clothes and steel. However, a number of key products are exempt, including beef, coffee and rare earths. The duties will take effect next Wednesday. This is Global Business Europe. Still ahead, sailing the deep green seas, China and Norway join forces to float ideas on making the shipping industry more eco-friendly.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there. To see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you. All around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London. China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
What do we mean when we talk about the difference?
Brazen acts.
The difference is in the detail,
In
the background,
defense ministers from
the wider angle and perspective of every story. Wherever the story may be. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back to Global Business Europe with Sally Baudet. Your headlines. China's top memory chip maker heads for a multi-billion-dollar listing in Shanghai. 29 countries sign a deal in China to include every nation, rich and poor, in writing the rules for artificial intelligence. And British Steel is nationalised by the UK government. They say it'll save jobs and protect a vital industry. China and Norway will work together on green shipping. Several agreements reached during a visit to Norway last week by China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Johannes Pleshberger reports.
Every year, more Norwegian vessels roll out of Chinese shipyards, many of them powered by electric batteries or ammonia fuel. It is a partnership expected to deepen in the years ahead, as Norway's Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre told CGTN.
Many of the ships now in the world are being built in China, but a lot of the technology inside those ships come from Norway, and that's a good thing.
During his visit to Oslo, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi said both countries should continue strengthening cooperation in green shipping, a goal his Norwegian counterpart Espen Barth Eide strongly supports.
We must build cooperation with China wherever it is possible and in areas where we work well together, and that includes everything to do with the climate.
In the past years, China and Norway have strengthened cooperation across the maritime sector, with Chinese shipyards building Norwegian car carriers, electric container ships and wellboats, with many of them delivered to here in the Oslo area, where the message is clear that both sides will continue working together, trying to build a smarter, greener and more modern maritime industry. In Oslo, that cooperation is already visible. Electric ferries here swap their batteries every time they dock, using a system inspired by China's EV maker NIO. But the conversations happening alongside these projects go much further, with both sides looking beyond shipping to broader cooperation on the future of the oceans.
We had interesting discussions with China about how we can build on what is known as the Biodiversity Agreement, in which China played a key role and to which I also contributed. In this respect, China is much closer to our views than the US. China takes the climate crisis much more seriously than the US, which treats it as an abstract concept.
Beyond the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which aims to halt and reverse biodiversity loss by 2030, China and Norway are also deepening cooperation on sustainable ocean management, following a memorandum of understanding signed last year. While the maritime industry continues to put pressure on marine ecosystems, efforts to protect ocean biodiversity are taking on greater urgency as global climate policies evolve. Johannes Bleschberger, CGTN, Oslo.
Cuba's energy crisis continues. There have been 3 national blackouts in less than 10 days, leaving over 9 million people in the dark. CGTN's Luis Chirino reports.
Cities in the dark as the power outage affects everyday life, including residential areas, hospitals, services. Only some private businesses are illuminated, relying on their own power generators. Yamile Robles is an accountant who finds it hard to do her distance work with a private company where she works in downtown Havana.
When the power grid collapses, we have no options to do our work. I can't recharge my cell phone or my laptop to keep working, and this puts me in a very difficult situation with my company. The collapse of the power grid causes the collapse of everyday life. All house or labor activities are paralyzed.
Then this is all water you keep to cook? David Arjona is a self-employee who keeps a house rental business for tourists. He showed me his reserves of water to drink and cook food, and his aisle fridge empty of food.
The collapse of the power grid increases the serious impacts that the current energy shortage has in all of us. No food can be refrigerated, so we have to buy food on a daily basis. No water pumping. It's a critical situation. In my case, I could no longer afford accommodation to tourists. We are really undergoing a serious situation.
The power grid collapse and energy shortage affect drinking water pumping to residential areas. In some Havana suburbs, people are searching for places where they can collect potable water. Sensitive enough are the conditions of parents with small children at home with limited resources amidst the current energy crisis and power outages.
Normalmente es mala la situación, pero cuando se cae se empeora.
Usually we face a tough energy situation, but when the grid collapses, everything worsens. No power at all. I can't preserve any food. Add to that, the hot weather and water pumps in the building don't work, so I have to fetch water from the cisterns nearby and bring it all the way up the stairs.
Tylee showed me a power inverter as an alternative to cope with the blackouts and the new function of her fridge. In the current hot summer season, senior citizens try to cope with the darkness and high temperatures at home by sitting for hours to get some fresh air before going to bed late every night. Cuban authorities insist that frequent failures in thermal plants causing grid collapses are the result of aging technology needing thorough repairs. without access to spare parts, amidst a severe energy shortage due to strong U.S. sanctions and an ongoing oil blockade, which prevents the island from purchasing necessary fuels to produce electricity. Richardino, CGTN, Havana.
Europe's heatwave has driven up demand for air conditioners, particularly for businesses. But more air conditioning means more carbon emissions. Data from Eurostat shows EU energy use for cooling buildings in 2024 increased 15% compared to the year before. Here's our correspondent Natalie Carney.
The boutique La Maison Hotel thought it was ready for rising temperatures, but after Germany's recent heat wave hit 41 degrees Celsius, it was forced to make emergency adjustments.
For the time being, we're giving out fans so that the guests can still sleep comfortably or feel at ease during the very hot weather. We've noticed, not just this year but gradually over the past few years, that guests specifically asked whether there is air conditioning in the room.
Businesses across Germany are now investing billions in cooling technologies. The market for cooling commercial buildings is expected to top $3.4 billion by 2030. But the cost of doing nothing could be even greater.
Europe is warming faster than almost any other continent on the planet, and that comes at a price. For many German businesses, the investment into cooling is no longer a luxury, but a necessity for many heat waves to come.
According to Allianz research, rising temperatures are driving up business costs by reducing productivity and increasing energy use. Every degree above 30 degrees Celsius cuts workers' productivity by around 3% per hour. Sick leave rises by 3.5%, climbing to 6% during prolonged heat waves. Across Germany, those losses could add up quickly.
Germany was cumulative between 2026-2030. It's around 140 of US dollar billion. In terms of GDP, Germany, we are talking about 3% of GDP, so they are really high numbers.
Demand for cooling is also pushing up electricity costs. During the last heat wave, Germany's wholesale electricity prices jumped more than fivefold overnight as solar power output dropped while demand for cooling remained high. And those economic costs could climb even faster unless emissions are cut.
The curve, it's not linear. At some point, you are crossing some threshold, like where you can have really a sharp increase of these heat waves and other extreme events. I can't really speculate, but it's going to be really tough from an economic perspective.
But staying cool doesn't always mean turning up the air conditioning. From shaded windows to green roofs, simple design solutions can help keep indoor spaces comfortable while using less energy. Natalie Carney for CGTN, Munich.
The headlines again. China's top memory chip maker heads for a multi-billion-dollar listing in Shanghai. 29 countries sign a deal in China to include every nation, rich and poor, in writing the rules for artificial intelligence. And British Steel is nationalised by the UK government. They say it will save jobs and protect a vital industry. That's it for Global Business Europe. Thanks for watching. Up next on CGTN is Africa Live. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. From all of us here in London, goodbye.